We are living in very interesting and unprecedented times. Coronavirus is here with us, and it's not a time to play the blame game of asking how it came to be. But the only thing that each one of us has to do if we have to survive is to follow the protocols that have been established by the public health officials in our respective countries. That will guarantee that at least we'll keep Covid-19 at bay. However, it's also important for us to appreciate that coronavirus is changing the normal as we know it. It's disrupted our economies, it's disrupted our social gatherings, it's disrupted every aspect of our lives. We are living in what we are calling the new norm. And that has got many people thinking. The economists are trying to explain what the impact of this will be. The religious leaders are trying to interpret what this means. And sociologists are trying to explain what the society will be like after coronavirus. Irrespective of which group of people you belong to, the reality is that coronavirus is forcing us to change. Change from what we know to what we do not know. Change from what we have been used to what we have not been used to. The reality is that when all this is done, and hoping and praying that it will be done sooner than later, there will be certain outcomes that we'll have to experience. In this particular episode, I want to propose that there will be 3 possible outcomes as a result of this coronavirus pandemic. The choices that you make today will determine which of those possible outcomes will be your future even after the coronavirus. The first possible outcome as a result of coronavirus pandemic is death. So far, we have experienced about 165,000 people who have already died by the time of this episode. We have over 2.4 million people who have been infected with the coronavirus, and many millions who have been affected as a result of this disease. The reality is it's not only people that will die. There will be businesses that will die. There will be institutions that will die. There will be habits that have to die. There will be other customs that we are used to that will have to die as a result of this COVID-19. The reality is, death is something we do not like, because it means that whatever it is that we were used to, whether it's a person, whether it's a business, whether it's an institution, they cease to exist. They no longer continue to be there. There are certain questions that we'll have to ask ourselves. Are there things that we naturally will allow to die? Or are there things that we need to be intentional about killing if we have to continue surviving post-coronavirus? Of course, the new normal has allowed us to learn new things, the new hygiene measures that have been established. The truth is, those are things that we were not used to. So we are killing our old pasts of living and doing things and adopting new things and new ways of doing things as we live. Are there things that we need to kill in our lives so that we can survive post-coronavirus? That's a question that each one of us need to ask. And that's a question that only you can answer. For those who are leaders in institutions, what are some of the habits and traditions that are going to be killed as a result of this coronavirus? Maybe it's the way we work, the new way of working from home. Maybe it is the way we deal with people. We need to figure out some of the things that need to die as a result of coronavirus. But death is one of the possible outcomes that we have to contend with. The second potential outcome of the corona pandemic that we are likely to experience is survival. To survive is to continue to exist despite the danger that you might have faced. By the time of this episode, over 2.4 million people have already been infected by the disease. So many others have been affected by the disease. I'm also glad to record that we have over 600,000 people who have already been able to manage to survive and recover. The reality is those who have recovered have been able to go through difficult times. Some of them have had to use ventilators so that they can continue to live. Some of them have continued to go through very difficult medical procedures that have helped them to survive. Surviving is not always the easiest thing. It comes with certain dangers along the way. The reality is, as we move along, we have to ask ourselves as individuals, as organizations, what mechanisms have we put in place that will enable us to survive beyond COVID-19? Some organizations have already gone into survival mode by possibly reducing salaries, by reducing the number of staff that they are there. Organizations are doing everything they can to make sure that for now they are just living and continuing to be. Their future is not guaranteed, but at least for now, they are continuing to survive. The social distancing measures that we are putting in place, or the hygiene measures that we are putting in place, all those are supposed to help us to continue surviving and hoping that we get out of this situation that we are in well. The question that each one of us has to ask ourselves is, what do we need to do now? What decisions do we need to take now that will ensure that we survive this pandemic? If you are an organizational leader, the question is, what do you need to do that will allow you and your organization to survive this pandemic and possibly be in existence years to come? That's a question that you as a leader have to ask for your organization, but even for your own life. You have to ask yourself the question, what do I need to do so that I can survive the pandemic? Not all is doom and gloom about this coronavirus pandemic. The third possible outcome that we are likely to experience after this pandemic is that there are people and institutions that will thrive. To thrive is to prosper. It is to flourish. It is to do well. The reality is we have new opportunities that are coming up as a result of this pandemic. All of a sudden, people who have been manufacturing sanitizers are unable to meet the demand. We have people who are making masks that were not engaged before, and all of a sudden there's an opportunity for them to be actively engaged. Truth be told is that there are people who have discovered the ability to work online, and they are discovering new online working tools and platforms that are enabling them to be productive and engaged. As we look around, there are opportunities that are opening up. For people who are active, for people who are thinking, for people who are creative, there are opportunities that are opening up. Beyond COVID-19, there will be new opportunities that will open up that did not exist. There will be new industries that did not exist before. But are we willing to look at our circumstances, our environment, study it, and see the new opportunities that exist? Only people who are agile, people who are willing to go beyond the call of duty will be able to realize the new opportunities that are there. The question is, are you willing to study the environment? Are you willing to be creative enough and look for opportunities beyond the norm that you are used to? We must be willing to let go of what we know as normal, and in our new norm, identify opportunities and the circumstances that will allow us to thrive beyond what we know. If you are waiting for the pandemic to end so that you can determine the next course of action, the reality is that you might likely die and not survive or have an opportunity to thrive. But those who are likely to survive and thrive are the ones who are actively engaged now and thinking about the future as the pandemic unfolds in the current circumstances. As I've just mentioned, there are three possible outcomes that are likely to happen. There will be death of people and institutions. There are those people and institutions that will survive, and there are those that will thrive in the circumstances. The question for you is, what do you need to do today so that you evade dying and you survive, and even better off, you thrive.